Hey, Radiant Souls, welcome back to my channel. Today, I want to talk about and show you some of the art that I completed in the last quarter. I was going to say half, but it's the quarter of 2021. So energetic signature portraits that were completed October through, I think I've got some Januaries in there too. So we'll screen share that in a minute so that I can show those to you. Because it's not just, hey, here's my art. It's, hey, here are some amazing, beautiful, astounding souls, people that you can consider part of your community. If you're here watching this channel, you're in the same resonance, the same frequency as they are, because you're all part of a larger community. So I love to come and showcase that. It's kind of like taking out your phone and showing pictures. Here's where I went on vacation. Here's my friends. Here's the people that I've met. Here are the people that I've met through what I do. And I want to share it with you. But before we get to that, I also want to talk about how to use your energetic signature portrait, because I get that question quite often. And having done this now for quite a while, I also have some real case user stories of how you guys are interacting with these portraits. And I think it's amazing. So in short, the portrait is frequency. It is energy. It is resonance. So it is a point in time depiction of your energy at the time that I am connecting with you to do the portrait. So that doesn't necessarily mean that specific second, that minute that I'm doing the session, but kind of the 1 to 2 months around that period of time for you. So with that, some of you are already coming back, which is amazing, for follow-up portraits, for your second portrait, your third portrait. Because it's also really fun and something I do personally. It's fun to check in and see how your energy changes as you bring new situations, new knowledge, new ways of being into the world for yourself. So if you already have a portrait and you want to see where you are, please come back and let's do a second one. I love those so much. It's so much fun to compare side by side. So I also want to mention that due to feedback and wow, so many of you wanting to talk about your portraits in detail, I have also created a separate portrait discovery session. So you don't need to get one. You can just get the art and do your own thing, and that's fine. And that actually really works for some people, because one of the points of this artwork is to get in touch with your intuition, to feel into the art for yourself. But some of you like to have somebody to kind of talk it through with, to look at the different elements in the portrait, to see kind of where that vibe is landing for you. So I now offer a portrait discovery session that you can book, so that we come together for half an hour. We talk like this over Zoom, and I pull up your portrait. We look at it together. You can ask whatever other questions you have. I check back in and connect back into the guides and the team that shows up to help me create these portraits. And spirit, by the way, team, not like actual literal people. Spirit and multidimensional beings, we connect back in and just kind of talk through it with you. So for some people, that's a really great option to say, am I on the right track when I feel like this thing represents that for me? And we can kind of unpack and expand a little bit. So all of that information is on my website. I'll put the links below for that. Even if you had a portrait done months ago and you want to come back in and talk about it, we can still do that. I save these I have some kind of redundancies to where I save all of my work, so I can pull that back up for you and we can talk through it. So that's what I wanted to say about that. But some ways in which we're using it, and I kind of touched on it with those discovery calls. Sometimes I'm hearing feedback, and I want you to know that if you don't immediately fall in love with your portrait when you see it, like absolutely, you don't hear angels singing and you're like, oh, I don't know about that. That's not the color I expected, or I wouldn't have thought that the lines would kind of look like that. I wouldn't expect those shapes. That's okay. I actually have that happen when I do these for myself sometimes. I'm like, oh, no, I don't know that that's me. I would ask you, feel into it, sink into it a little deeply. If you need to, stop looking and come back to it later. What I am finding after doing hundreds of these is that even almost more specifically, the ones that kind of put you on your back foot a little bit or give you pause, there are still messages. People get really, really, really quite attached to thinking they will see colors that they love. And that's really not what this is. Sometimes you see a color that you may not prefer. So it's a color, it's frequency. So what is it with that frequency that trips your trigger, for lack of a better phrase? Is there something there that you can smooth out for yourself, that you could resolve for yourself? That's part of what this art is representing. I, as the artist, don't sit there and think, oh, Heather really likes lavender. Let me give Heather some lavender because I know she really like it. I don't have that line of thought at all. So I am not sitting here thinking you want this color, you don't want this color. Whatever is coming through is there for a reason. That's all I've got. After doing so many of these, when we talk through it, we sometimes get to that, but I want you to know that you can do that work yourself. You can kind of dive deeper into it. So how to use the portrait. Some of the best examples I've heard lately are had amazing feedback that someone has it as the lock screen on their phone. And this is a very energy sensitive person, as many of you are. And as she goes throughout her day, sometimes things pull and twist and make her feel off balance, off center, disconnected. And she says, I pull up my phone and I say, oh, there I am. So it helps her reconnect with herself. And that was beautiful feedback. Thank you for that. That actually really touched me when I heard it. Other people put them on display in their homes, in meditation rooms, in their bedrooms. One of the other really amazing ones I've seen lately was a couple who got a portrait, and behind their bed, it's like his and hers portraits for, I'm assuming, where they each sleep. I've seen them in around copper pyramids where people are meditating. I've seen them in offices where people need to feel a little more, again, connected to themselves. Back to the phone display, some people have, the EMF protection on their phone, and they consider their portrait like a second level of protection for them. So, and some people just have them digitally. They don't print them out anywhere. And that's okay too. Whatever works for you, there's no right or wrong way to do it or to use the portrait. I meant to bring one. I don't have a portrait, but I have frequency art that I've printed out. I meant to bring that to show you what it looks like printed on canvas. But maybe we'll do that in another video. So let me get where I'm going here to start sharing and show you some of these amazing portraits that I was able and so blessed and lucky to bring through for people at the end of 2021. So we're going to see and hear some very vibrant colors, some very subtle colors. And that's another thing too, when we talk about the portraits. Sometimes we have expectations of, I really feel I'm a vibrant person, so I'm going to surely see vibrant colors. Not necessarily. There may be things with you that you need to pull back a little. Maybe you're too boisterous in some situations, or you're too energy forward in some situations. And so your portrait is maybe a reminder to pull back a little. One thing that's been coming through recently, and you can't really see, we can kind of zoom in on this one a little bit in particular, but see the lines that look like a grid in the background here? They're actually also very subtly rainbow colored. So something really unique that started to come through with these portraits in October through January was a different display of energy. And I feel like a lot of you who got these portraits during this time frame are healers. You have a healing capacity or are in need of tapping into that for yourself. And if you think of the end of the year, traditionally, it's the holidays, we're stressed, or we're coming up at the end of a fiscal year for those who run businesses. It's kind of a run and gun time for us, and we're very busy. We're heads down. We may be neglecting our self-care. So it didn't surprise me that some of that was coming up, but it also seemed to be a little more prevalent in this group than it was maybe earlier in the year in 2021. So again, that also points to the fact that there's no specific blue means this, green means that, a light means this or that. There is no, we've got to get out of that linear polarity-based thinking. There is no absolute defined way for these to come through. It is what it means to you. We are all so completely unique. We have similarities. So if you think of, I'm going to say a redhead, you tend to think like the line of thinking is, oh, they're kind of fiery and they can, go off the cuff a bit. They've got an attitude, but that's not true of every single redhead. So the same is true for colors. Blue can mean communication. It doesn't always. Part of receiving your portrait is doing the work with yourself to see how it makes you feel. And when I started to pull these through, that's exactly what the intention was for this art coming into the world. So that kind of sounds like a big, tall mission and a little bit lofty. And I don't mean it to sound holier than thou or anything like that. That's just me trusting the messages that I got when I was kind of tapped to start creating this art. So again, just scrolling through, like these two, you can see there are similar color patterns with the purples and the lavenders a little bit, but two completely different souls, two completely different expressions. And just keep scrolling through to show you. So again, if you've had one and you want to come back for a second, I love that so much. Let's do it. I'm so excited to show up and serve in this way for you. And if you haven't had one yet and you're interested, jump on in. There's some great testimonials here. I'll put the links to my website below as well. You can check them out at your leisure, as they say. And I just wanted to come in front of everybody and showcase these because they are so very special. And I hope for those of you in my audience and community who are energy sensitive, it's also nice to just kind of connect to that and see what these feel like for you. Even if it's not your art, come practice, come look at this website and kind of say, okay, I kind of feel that. Like, what do you get from each portrait? What do you feel about the art and the colors and the shapes and the kind of implied movement that goes on in some of these? So I would say too, if you have received a portrait and you want to drop a comment, I'd love to hear your feedback. If you haven't already shared it with me, or even if you have, leave a comment below. If you have any questions about my process, how I pull these through, what they are, where they came from, why they're here, anything like that, leave me a comment too, and we'll address that in a different video. And then I also wanted to show, I've revamped the PDF guide that you get with the portraits. So you can now come on my website and kind of see a preview of what you get. It is a 15-page PDF booklet, but with that, most of those pages are set. They aren't all specific to you because, again, the goal is not Heather tells you who you are. Heather tells you what your portrait means. If we want to unpack that and discuss it together in a discovery call, we will. But what I provide you is a 2 to 3 sentence interpretation. And it's usually, hey, when I connected to your energy, I sensed this or I sensed that. Or I might say, when I look at your portrait, I see elements that make me feel this or make me feel that. I kind of prompt you on what I would see it as an intuitive, but I don't want to overstep and tell you exactly how it is because I don't know. It's your piece, it's your soul, it's your energy signature. And then a 2 to 3 channeled message from the guides who show up. So most often it is not your Aunt Sarah showed up and said this. It is a fluid collective message from all of the beings that show up for you. And they're very loving, they're very motivational, very supportive of you, but they are also short. So I want to be clear that the thing you're getting is the art, and it's your work to work with it, feel into it, intuit it as you see fit. So going back, you get an interpretation or a little note about the interpretation. I included a note about expectations because, again, I keep seeing that people say, oh, I wanted it to be blue and it was pink, or I am offended by this certain color, or whatever it is. So I talk through why expectations are limiting and why we need to kind of let them go. Guidance on how to print it if you want to, what it actually is, some tips for tuning into it and feeling it, some very, 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 and I can't stress that enough, very basic explanations for colors. If you are not at all familiar with color theory or anything like that, this is a good starting point for you. This doesn't mean I saw red, it means this, because again, you need to intuit that. You need to feel what that means for you. But I give you a good jumping off point because there is also a resonance that has built up, a resonant residue that has built up for colors where they can hold certain meaning and certain frequency. But it's up to you whether they do or don't. Same with shapes and lines. They can mean this, they may not for you. Some of the other elements we see in there, like beams of light or grids and things like that, I give you a way to try out different frequency art if you're interested, and then some tips on self-care, because sometimes people get their portraits and they have very, very visceral reactions to them. So I want to make sure that you are energetically taking care of yourself when you get your art. So that is that. Thank you for sharing some time with me today. Thank you for checking out these beautiful and amazing souls who stepped forward to receive some sacred art in the last part of 2021. I hope you have an amazing day, and I will see you next time. Bye.